want to start by just letting you know I've been in the hospital. You hear I'm breathing already hard, just even walking up here. I've been in the hospital with pneumonia. I just got out on Sunday. And man, I thought it was my time. Like pneumonia kicked my rear end, and I'm a pretty healthy guy. And last week was feeling off and went in right away. And they're like, you got pneumonia. And they put a big shot in my butt and put me on some antibiotics. And I'm like, good, I got this thing early. And I just went downhill. And so I'm still about 70%. So if you're like, God, Paul seemed a little off at our event, it's like, there's my excuse. So, but I wouldn't miss it because Joe put a lot of pressure on. He said a lot of work goes into this. So I'm like, I'm not gonna miss it. And so I'm honored to be here. What I thought I'd do a little bit today is I'm just gonna tell you how a guy finds his way into a political office when he really has no intention of ever being there. And that's kind of my story. As mentioned, I grew up in Worthington, to a great Christian home. Lyle and Beth, my parents, put me in Christian school. So I grew up in private education. Went to you hear all right, Bill? Just crank this up a little. I want to get this thing a little higher. All right. There we go. Went to a small Christian high school, and that took me to Dordt University, Sioux Center. And I graduated there in 2000. In 2000 was the age of the dot-com boom, and you were getting rich overnight. This is going to sound like the Bitcoins and FTX story, but it happened 22 years ago. It's called the dot-com boom. Pets.com and all these things were launching, and I wanted to get into this web space. I saw the internet taking off. I said, I think the internet is going to be a thing. I mean, remember using AOL, you get the CDs in the mail and all this stuff. And I'm like, I think this is really going to be something. I wanted to build websites. So I went to college for that and graduated for that, and chased a girl to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and got a job here, married her, Jill, not Beth. and started our career here in Sioux Falls. And like most young, hard-charging guys, you're pushing hard to make money, climb the ladder, build your career here, make a name for yourself. A lot of men specifically, we find a lot of our purpose and our identity in our business card and in our work. And so I was real determined to be a real player in the web, in the internet space. So I did that for a few years in Sioux Falls. That's where I met Brad Coleman, actually. Brad and I worked at Sanford Health together for a few years. Work is loose term. I mean, I was there most of the time. Brad would kind of come in and out. But it's where I met Brad. And then in 2008, Barack Obama won the White House. And he won the White House using digital technology like we had never seen in politics. Twitter was new, and he used Twitter really effectively. He used MySpace very effectively to garner excitement, hope, amongst younger voters. He used what's called A/B testing in some of his digital stuff, which that's very common now, but A/B testing was very new, meaning, Larry would get one email and, Ron would get a different email, and which they had different pictures, and whichever picture got more clicks, then they'd send the rest of those emails with that picture because it performed better, and he would raise more money that way. It's just real cutting edge stuff. And I saw this happening. I saw this MySpace thing, and Twitter was taken off. I said, I think there's going to be an opportunity in the social media space that people don't really know what it is. They're trying to figure it out. Facebook wasn't a thing yet. Obviously no YouTube, or excuse me, there was YouTube, but it wasn't like it is today. There's no Instagram, there's no Snapchat, there's no TikTok, none of that. So I started a business in 2008 called ClickRain. And our first client, I made a MySpace page for a political candidate. And that led to doing some more work for political candidates. And I kind of started to become a bit of a known entity as a digital consultant in politics, and worked with campaigns all over the country doing different digital strategies to help them reach voters and get elected. And that dovetailed into doing more and more in the digital space, not just politics, but working with hotels and working with hospitality and healthcare and sports teams. And we really got in on this social media thing early, and it was a blast. And we started riding the social media wave because everybody knew it was important. No one knew how to do it. And several years into the company, we were killing it, man. And I was having an absolute blast and making great money. I had freedom. I could go to the grocery store and no one would bother me. I miss all that stuff. But I was very, very still unsettled and started to really question my purpose. Like, why did God have me on this earth? What am I here for? We are here, but for just such a short time. Such a short time. There was a whole Catholic businessmen's group probably 100 years ago that would meet somewhere in this community, and they're all gone. And you guys are here for this time. And for me, questioning the brevity of life and like, what is my legacy? Why am I here? How do I want to be eulogized? Is it, oh, Paul was a good digital marketing guy. He built a good company and made good money. What a terrible way to be eulogized. And that just ate at me all the time. Even as the company grew, I knew that wasn't my calling. And so continued to have fun running this business, but was less content than I really should be. So knew I was going to exit eventually. So I started to have a couple guys that work for me buy in a little bit here and there each year as my ultimate succession plan, knowing I was going to have to get out of there at some point and chase whatever God wanted me to do next. And the idea of running for office, probably, you would probably have the same reaction today that I had then if someone said, hey, you should consider running for office. And you'd all be like, other than Joe Kipley over there, you'd all be like, HE double hockey sticks. No, why would I want to do that? Politics is a train wreck. It's terrible. It's gross. It's divisive. I hate it. I want nothing to do with it. And that was me. Still is me in some ways. But God was putting it very clearly on my heart to pursue running for the mayor's office in Sioux Falls. And why the mayor's office? Why not another office? It's like, well, I always saw my company, which was 35 people at that time, as my mission field. It's like God's entrusted me with these 35 people. This is my mission field. I'm supposed to pour into them, love them, model the way for ethical business practices and leadership, tithe company earnings, to nonprofits. Like, this is my mission field. But you can only, take a 35-person mission field so far. And I'm like, I think I've set the culture in place here. I want to expand my mission field. I want to serve more people. I'm not being called to go to Africa and sell all my stuff. That's not me. Business is a mission field. You guys are all in missions, whether you realize it or not. You're going to leave here and you're going to drive somewhere, and where you land next is your mission field, where you've been planted. And for me, God was telling me my next mission field would be in politics. And I'm like, man, did I not want to do that? But I decided to run, expecting to lose. And if you remember back in 2017 when we had that mayor's race, it was me and Jim Entenman and Greg Jameson and Kenny Anderson. I mean, there's some good people that run for that office. And then there was this digital marketing guy that, didn't always shave and didn't wear a tie. And we're like, all right, is this guy even have a chance? And I fully expected to lose. But I'm like, I'm going to follow God's calling to run. He's not calling me to be mayor. He's calling me to run. But I'm going to run. I'm going to do it with integrity. I'm going to lose. And then I'm going to do something else. And I didn't lose. It's kind of Donald Trump story, I think, too. He ran. He's like, oh, crap, I won. Now what do I do? But I won. And so I've been in that office now for 4.5 years, got reelected this April. And am a very non-traditional politician. I hate the politician word. I'm in that office because I love people. I love this city. I love to show the hands and feet of Christ through the office. But I got to be cautious on how I do that, and the words that I use, and the way that I do that. But there's that saying that's something about speak the gospel always, and when necessary, use words, or something like that. And that's how I'm trying to lead in this office. And the last couple of years, it's been very, very hard to serve in public office. The tenor and the climate of our community, and I say community in a national sense, it's really degraded. From when I took office in 18 to 20 was one term, and 20 since has been a whole different term. And we had what I call CPR in 2020. We had COVID, we had political tensions, we had racial tensions, all get unleashed in 1 year. And people have lost their minds. And they are chronically angry. And we're being told right now, you need to be chronically angry. You need to be angry. You need to be angry about this. You need to be angry about Herschel Walker's statements. You need to be angry about, CRT in our schools. You need to be angry that marijuana could come to our state. And angry. And so the dialogue has gone, and it's been replaced with anger. And so it's not that we shouldn't have positions on some of those things I just mentioned, but the way in which we do that, being a statesman, right, and doing it in a loving and compassionate way has been very, very challenging. I'm in the hospital Saturday night. I get a random message from a guy. He just says, hey, let me know how such and such's private parts taste in your mouth, you piece of blah, blah, blah. I'm on a frickin' IV, sitting in the hospital. And this guy, and I never met him. I don't know what it's about. But I'm like, this is what you're doing at 2 a.m? Like, just randomly sending me this message? And what's caused that guy to be so angry, so mad at me? And it was related to our governor. It was related to one of her advisors. And I'm a Republican, so I get lumped in with Republican politics. Don't even know what I am anymore, to be honest. Some days I struggle with what partisan label I even am, because there's varying degrees of being a Republican, just like there's varying degrees of being a Democrat. So I feel that my job is to first and foremost create unity, love, and peace in this city, right? Model the way for what I expect of our residents. If residents see me gaslighting, if residents see me tweeting back at people and making snide remarks, that behavior is accepted because you're the leader of the community. Donald Trump put in hoping it's okay if we talk politics a little bit because I'm a politician, but in some ways he gave a hall pass for people to speak very respectfully to others. And I've seen that. And so we at the local level have to just model the way for that's not acceptable. We don't do that here in Sioux Falls. It's not how we treat people. It's not how we act. And we're in a community right now that is pretty dang close 50-50 R's and D's. Okay? It's a purple city. So the way that we have to lead, we have to assume that everyone we're talking to has a variety of different opinions on a variety of topics. I can go to Ipswich and walk into the sale barn, and I feel a lot more comfortable talking about GOP politics. But in this room, I don't even know the makeup in this room. We're 50-50 in this city. We could have a 50-50 makeup in this room. So what do we want for this community? We all want the same things. We all want a safe community. We all want a God-fearing community. We want good schools. We want good roads. We want the toilets to flush. our showers to drain, what the lights to come on. Like those are all local issues. So right now, that's my season in life, is to be doing this job that I honestly have never had any intention of doing, or in a lot of ways have never really wanted. People will often ask, "Are you having fun? You having fun?" I say, "No, I'm not." It's not a job I would say is fun, and for all the reasons you probably know, it's not fun. But God calls us to do hard things, and so the devil loves it when we get comfortable. If you're comfortable in your job, you're doing the same thing every day, you're making good money, you go to the lake house on the weekends, you are ripe for the devil to sneak in and make a mess of your life. He wants you to get complacent. And so my challenge is to people is often, you have to get uncomfortable. I left a great life in a great world to make 120 grand as the mayor of Sioux Falls, work 70 hours a week, no time for anything else, and get criticized for almost everything you do. And this isn't a woe is me tour, but it's like that's the reality of the job. But we need more good men and women to do those things, step up and do those things. Would I have any desire to quote unquote climb the ladder and go into other political office? People say higher office. I'm in the highest office. And I say that because your day-to-day life, no offense, John Thune, Mike Rounds, Dusty, they don't affect your day-to-day life. But if a guy comes in here with a gun right now, every response after that is going to be all local. It's going to be cops, it's going to be fire, it's going to be all local stuff that affects your day-to-day life. So this is the highest office. Something will have to change in federal office for us to figure out how to get back to a point of unity in our country. And there's always been discord, and some of you were maybe at the law enforcement game feed. Carl Rove was there. He was really great. Great reminder of our country's always been a train wreck. And the train wreck is what keeps that tension, is what keeps us America. Okay? If we swing, it's not good for the House and the Senate to be united. It's good Warnock won. We need that tension, okay? We need the Senate to have control, the House to have control. That's going to create some good tension. And that's how good laws are passed, and that's how good things happen. But we have to continue to look for ways to do that in a way that is less of a gaslighting style that has become the norm in our society and in dialogue. My kind of closing statement on that, and then I would love to take any questions, because I wanted to leave it a little. Is that all right? Can we do questions? I don't know who's in charge. Mark, where are you at? Okay, we can do a few questions. Is this, started a company around social media because I loved it. I saw the opportunity around it. And I tell you what, I increasingly see the dangers and the evils of social media. And in some ways, I'm almost embarrassed that I spent so much time in that world and in that space, because if I had to pinpoint one thing that's led to the dialogue chasm in our country, it would be that. It would be the advent of social media. So I always encourage people to take a personal inventory of the time, of how you're using social content, how you're absorbing it, how it's affecting your psyche and your mood and the content you absorb and the news you receive. Because chances are a lot of it's not accurate, and chances are a lot of it's being manipulated by a few engineers on another side of a computer to sell more ads. And so it's very, very important to realize that social media and those companies are not out for our good. They're out for their own good. And so if you have kids, screen time with those kids. Get rid of TikTok if you can. I'm on the same train as the Gov right now. There's a lot of people who don't know about TikTok. It's a train wreck of an app for a lot of reasons right now. So spend more time in the Word. I sometimes think about that if God says, Paul, you spent an hour on LinkedIn today and you did a 5-minute devotional, like, ooh, it's kind of a bad ratio, isn't it? You can only spend 5 minutes with me and an hour on LinkedIn. That's tough, And so I want to thank this group for having me today. It's a little bit about how I got to this point in my journey, but I'd love to have a conversation with some Q&A on anything I talked about or didn't talk about my life or the role as mayor of the 130 largest city in the country. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, first of all, thank you for being here and for your candid remarks. Could you speak a little bit about when you were in that process of trying to figure out what's next? What kind of conversations did you have with Jill?
Oh, great question. For those of you who are listening, the question was when I was in that season of just wrestling, what conversation did I have with my wife, Jill? Jill knew I was in a bad spot. I was depressed. I was on depression medication. She's like, why are you, what's wrong? You got things are good. I said, Jill, I'm just not fulfilled. She's like, then leave the company. Sell it. Do something else. I don't care. Your identity to me is not as that person. You know, your identity is as Paul the husband and a child of Christ. And we get too wrapped around the axle that our identity is what we do for work. And that's hard. Like when guys retire, man, they have a hard time. Like, who am I anymore? I used to be Bob, the CEO over here. Now I'm just Bob, the guy who plays golf 4 times a week. And it's like, I lost my whole platform. I was worried about losing that. And Jill gave me a lot of reassurance that, hey, you're going to be Paul, my husband, our kid's dad, child of God, whether you're a greeter at Walmart or whether you run a company or whether you're a mayor. These are all just seasons. And it's very reassuring when you have a spouse that says, dude, I'm behind you. I got your back. Whatever you want to do, Paul, we'll figure it out. And that reassurance was very, very important and very valuable.
So, number one, thank you for serving. How are your kids dealing with it? How do they handle the stress and pressure they come with me to the Washington Pavilion Christmas lighting ceremony? How do they deal with it?
Yeah. So the question was, how does my family handle this? People ask me sometimes, what are some of the surprises that you encounter when you came into the office? 2 big ones, and they may seem silly. One, how much crap I have to sign every day. Like, sign every contract that goes out of the city, checks, like, I have to put wet ink on so much stuff. So I have so much stuff to sign. But secondly, the schedule commitment is intense. So we get about 30, 40 requests a week to go to stuff, to be at stuff, to have coffee with this person. This church wants to meet to talk about a zoning issue. All these things. And so it's getting harder as my kids get older to say, hey, come with me to the Christmas at the cathedral night. They're like, oh, God, do I have to go to that? It's harder. It was easier when they were younger because they didn't know what it was. And then I bring them. Now they know what it is. No offense, but just my 10-year-old probably doesn't want to come. She'd rather stay home and play, whatever, Among Us or something. So, but I also don't want them to look back on this time and be like, man, I had an absent dad for about 8 years because he was just all over and we never saw him. So I try to loop them into as much as I can because this chapter will close, but my father chapter will never close. So no offense to the residents, but they're my priority.
I love how you put Nora on Facebook.
Yeah. Nora loves being in the process of involved in the mayor's office. She's pretty jacked about that.
So the Parade of Lights was about 2 weeks ago, and I went to it, and I think that this community, if anybody was down there, they saw a real spirit, and I think you've been part of that, and I'd just like you to comment on that a little bit, on the Parade of Lights.
Yeah.
50,000 people down there. It was just wonderful. So,
Yeah, we had 50,000 people at our Parade of Lights, a little north of that, for a city of 200,000 people. And I tell you what, Sioux Falls, and I didn't create it, I just inherited it, and I'm shepherding it for the next mayor, whoever he or she is. The unity we have in our community is really special and really incredible. And I'm looking at Jeff Griffin over here and how the city works with the chamber and the Development Foundation and our state legislators. And that sort of synergy is not normal. So for those of you who have lived in Sioux Falls your whole life, you just think it's normal. We just have a great Parade of Lights and we have all these groups that work together, and it is not normal. And I say that as someone who works with other cities and other municipalities, and see, even having our police and our sheriff's office together in one building, very, very odd. Okay? You guys must just think, oh, it's normal. They're law enforcement. They work together. You see CSI, or like, that's my crime scene. Get out of here. Stuff like that's normal. This is not normal. So that spirit of unity, or one Sioux Falls, as I call it, is something I feel has made our community very, very special. And it's getting harder to maintain that as we grow. To maintain people who are new here, knowing, hey, this is what Sioux Falls is about. There's a kind of a unwritten set of bylaws you need to subscribe to when you come to this community. You give back here. You participate in Forward Sioux Falls. You show up for stuff. You pick up your trash after the parade of lights is over. And how do we maintain that as we grow by, we've grown by a Mitchell in the last 2 years here in Sioux Falls. So.
Kind of building off of that answer, now that you're in the midst of this season, you talked about how the job isn't necessarily fun, but can you self-reflect enough? Does this fill your cup in the way that it intended when you got into it?
The question was, does the job fill my cup? It fills my cup in that I have absolutely zero doubt in my mind this is where God wants me to be right now. Never a doubt. I had doubt before when I was running a business. Now, I wish God had made it more clear that I should have stayed over there and said, that's where I want you, but he didn't. He said, I need you over here. And so I'm doing it, so I feel very, very clear about it. And I'm also very cognizant not to wish it away either, because this will be done. I'll be done in 3.5 years, and we'll have a new mayor. And I'll just be a has-been, and I'll be like, man, why did I wish that away so quickly? That was really exciting, being in the midst of all that stuff during that time. And so I really balance that. But when you've tasted significance, success will never satisfy. It's one of my favorite quotes. A lot of us chase success. But once you've found significance, success will never satisfy. And a lot of times success is worldly things. Our cemeteries are full of men who chase success, but only a few of them found that significance, right? And so I feel, at least at this chapter of my life, God has made it clear that, hey, I got you where I want you right now.
Question, you grew up in a strong Christian family, went to Christian school, but who are the people that really anchored that faith in you?
Yeah, so the question was, who are people that anchored faith in me? I tell you, I'm a huge proponent of private Christian education. Okay, I can say I would not be who I am today and the man I am today without some of the teachers who instilled strong Christian values in me when I was a very easily influenced young guy. I could have gone some very different routes. But having a Christian education for me, I think, was very, very important. It's why my kids are in Christian education, because I know the impact it had on my life. So I would say a lot of my educators, especially in those high school years, were very, very important in anchoring my faith and helping me figure out who I was, as a child of God at that time. I will also say, though, that we as men, our kids are watching everything we do. Every word we say, every beer we crack, every TV show we have on, they're watching it. And it's so important for us to model the way for what we want to see in them. And so I had a dad that modeled the way very well for me as well. And I feel that self-imposed pressure now as a dad to and everything they do, I know they're watching, because the stuff they pick up on me, I'm like, where did she get that from? And I'm like, I know right where she got that from. So, Father.
Mr. Mayor, can you describe your prayer regimen, your spiritual life?
Yeah, this question was prayer regimen and spiritual life. So having this pneumonia and being down now for almost 2 weeks has been very challenging on me mentally, because I'm a very disciplined, regimented guy, where I get up at 5 a.m., I go to the gym until about 6-ish, and then I spend about 20 minutes or so in prayer and devotions, typically in my garage. I'm not waking my kids up. I'm sitting in my garage. It's quiet. There's no emails coming in. And I follow different devotional apps through the YouVersion Bible app. Okay, if you're not using the YouVersion Bible app, it's just such a great tool. There's 3, 5, 7-day devotionals on Advent or struggling with anxiety, or man, I just devour that content. And then what I try to do then in the evenings is journal a little bit. I have a John Maxwell Leadership Bible, and we'll reflect on where did I go wrong today, and what can I do better tomorrow. And I wish I was better at journaling, but I'll say that when you write stuff down, it sticks with you. There's a reason almost everybody says you should journal. I just don't want to keep a paper trail of anything I've done. So that's what got Nixon in trouble, I think. So, but I will say, what's always interesting about our prayer and devotional life, guys, is that do I remember the content of the devotional I read yesterday? No. But I don't remember what I had for breakfast yesterday either, but I knew I needed it at that time. I needed it to get me through that day. And so I need it every day. It's food. Just like going to the gym, getting my body going, gets my mind straight, and I need that spiritual food. Once it becomes habitual, it's very hard to break.
Can I piggyback on that?
Sure.
Favorite scripture passages?
One that's got me through the last couple of years is Romans 8:28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Because that word called, because I'm like, God, why did you call me to this train wreck of COVID? Why am I, but it's in all things, all these terrible circumstances, you'll work for the good of those who love you, which I do, and who have been called according to your purpose. So you brought me to this, get me through this, because this is not fun right now, and it's not good. So that one's been really meaningful to me in the last couple of years.